For nearly half a century, the world lived under constant fear that nuclear war could destroy civilization. In 1945, World War II ended, leaving Europe devastated and global power shifting dramatically. Two nations emerged as global superpowers: the capitalist United States and the communist Soviet Union. Their conflict was not just military, but a battle between two completely different political and economic systems.
In 1946, Winston Churchill warned that an iron curtain had fallen across Europe.
Eastern Europe slowly fell under Soviet influence, dividing the continent into opposing ideological blocs.
Eastern Europe slowly fell under Soviet influence, dividing the continent into opposing ideological blocs. The United States launched the Marshall Plan, sending billions to rebuild Europe and prevent communist expansion.
Western nations formed NATO, a military alliance promising collective defense against Soviet aggression. The Soviet Union responded by creating the Warsaw Pact, solidifying the Eastern Bloc. Germany became the central battleground of the Cold War, divided between Communist East and Democratic West. Berlin itself was divided, becoming the most visible symbol of ideological conflict during the Cold War.
Thousands of East Germans fled to the West, seeking freedom and economic opportunity. Thousands of East Germans fled to the West, seeking freedom and economic opportunity.
Communist leaders feared losing control as millions of citizens escaped through Berlin. In 1961, East Germany suddenly built the Berlin Wall, dividing families overnight. Armed guards patrolled the wall constantly, preventing citizens from escaping to West Berlin.
Some brave citizens dug secret tunnels beneath the wall to escape communist rule.
Others attempted daring escapes using homemade balloons, risking their lives for freedom.
Meanwhile, both superpowers rapidly developed increasingly powerful nuclear weapons.
In 1949, the Soviet Union successfully tested its first atomic bomb.
Soon, both nations created hydrogen bombs, far more powerful than earlier atomic weapons. Intercontinental ballistic missiles allowed nuclear weapons to reach targets across the planet within minutes.
Nuclear submarines silently patrolled oceans, capable of launching devastating missiles from hidden locations. This terrifying balance became known as mutually assured destruction, where nuclear war meant global annihilation.
Competition expanded into space when the Soviet Union launched the first satellite, Sputnik.
The United States accelerated its own space program to compete with Soviet technological achievements.
In 1969, American astronauts landed on the moon, marking a major victory in the space race. Meanwhile, a communist revolution in Cuba brought the Soviet Union dangerously close to American territory.
In 1962, American spy planes discovered Soviet nuclear missile sites secretly being constructed in Cuba.
President John Kennedy warned the nation and demanded the Soviet Union immediately remove the nuclear missiles.
American warships surrounded Cuba, preventing Soviet ships from delivering additional weapons.
For 13 days, the world waited anxiously as nuclear war seemed dangerously close.
Finally, Soviet leader Khrushchev agreed to remove the missiles and end the crisis.
The Cold War also fueled proxy wars, beginning with the brutal Korean War in 1950. Another devastating proxy conflict erupted in Vietnam, lasting nearly 20 years.
In 1979, Soviet forces invaded Afghanistan, beginning a costly war that weakened their power.
By the 1980s, the Soviet economy was struggling under the enormous cost of the Cold War.
A new leader, Mikhail Gorbachev, introduced reforms aimed at transforming the Soviet system.
Mass protests spread across Eastern Europe, demanding freedom and democratic change. In 1989, citizens gathered around the Berlin Wall, demanding it finally be opened. The wall collapsed as crowds celebrated, symbolizing the dramatic end of Cold War division. In 1991, the Soviet Union officially dissolved, ending the Cold War.
The decades-long rivalry between the superpowers had finally come to an end. However, the political consequences of the Cold War still influence global relations today. The Cold War remains a powerful reminder of the dangers of nuclear weapons.
History reminds us that peace must always be protected to prevent humanity repeating its most dangerous mistakes.